Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, your tarot reading for the week ahead. It's a great spread for you this week, Virgo. Really, really exciting, full of optimism, full of joy. There's a real sense here of Virgo doing what Virgo does best, but also doing what Virgo does worse. So there's a bit of a sign that everything in life is often a double-edged sword, right? There's two sides to every coin. Some things are a blessing and some things are a curse. Therefore, this week, ensure that you are just allowing those attributes, those quote unquote positive aspects of being Virgo to shine through, but not allowing those quote unquote negative aspects of Virgo to slip in either. I say this because the middle three cards of your spread are the Four of Pentacles, the Lord of Earthly Power, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Eight of Pentacles, the Lord of Prudence, I believe. This representing so well Virgo's propensity towards meticulousness, being very hardworking, keeping their head down, getting things done. This just very, very hardworking energy. And there's perhaps a relief. I use that word purposefully. A relief of going back to work, going back to school. Of right, I know what I'm doing now. I can go back to being organized. I can go back to being methodic. And this is very much what the Eight of Pentacles represents. The worker here, head down, just chiseling away and allowing the coins to build up, to stack up. And that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. There's also a leaning towards upskilling as well, something that Virgo is really good at. Therefore, not a bad time at the moment to be asking, is there a little bit more training I want to do? Is there more schooling I want to do? How do I make myself bigger, better, and brighter for the year ahead, particularly when it comes to aptitude and skill? I'm being very much drawn to my hands, so that may also be in a hands-on way. It could be as simple as learning to touch type, or it could be about actually I just want to get my hands dug into something, so it could be metaphorically or literally. And all of these things are great. I don't mind this whatsoever. The Knight of Pentacles, again, unsurprisingly, sorry, not the Nine of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles, unsurprisingly, this time of year brings up a lot of questions around finances. This is something that I've said almost to all of the star signs, not only this week, but recently anyhow. I say this in part because there's likely to be an adjustment or a realization or an awareness on a global scale as well as a national scale of things like cost of living crisis that seems to be affecting a lot of the world, the disproportionate nature of finances at the moment, but on a personal level and local level, just people having overspent, overcommitted themselves, things like the tax returns coming up in January, all of that stuff. However, what's great to see in your spread, Virgo, is you're probably one of the best signs to navigate some of the challenges that come financially, particularly expressed in the Four of Pentacles, that Lord of Earthly Power, as I mentioned. Sometimes this speaks of miserliness or being a bit tight-fisted financially, but in this instance, I don't mind. I feel that this is a necessary course of action in order to bring your finances back into balance. Unsurprising, at around this time, second, third week of Jan is often when we're the most broke. We spent the money at Christmas, we're just waiting for that paycheck. But if anybody is able to manage that with a kind of without any fuss, really, it's you, Virgo. It's a really lovely thing to see. It's like, no, I just need to hold back a little bit. I need to kind of tighten my belt a little bit, tighten my grip a little bit in order to refill the coffers. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely bunch of cards to see. It's showing Pentacles obviously being health and wealth, things like career, but the fact that you've got these in these stable numbers, and by stable numbers, I mean even numbers, the 4 and the 8, that's the position that the Pentacles really like to be in, because it's stability within stability. So don't be surprised if work's going quite well for you this week. And again, you're just enjoying getting your head down and finding genuine pleasure in work, in doing, in action, in creating. So I don't know whether this is a particularly good time to speak to your boss about that raise or that bonus or that promotion, but given the cards here, it's indicated quite well. Now, that's all the positive, which is lovely, lovely, lovely. But we also need to look at the flip side. And with Virgo, there can sometimes be a tendency for perfectionism. There can be a tendency for being stubborn a little bit here. And this is something that I said to Taurus as well. So be sure to check out Taurus, particularly if you have Virgo and Taurus in rising sun and moon. Because this, as much as he's got his head down and he's just hammering away at things and getting things done, which is great in the ways that I've expressed, it also is in direct contrast to your last card, which is the Wheel of Fortune, which is the card of change. Of all the cards within the tarot, arguably there may be some others, but this indicates the wheel of change, the wheel of time. What goes up must come down. And there's a feeling of resistance here this week. There's a feeling of, well, if I don't look at it, it doesn't exist. And I think that's probably an attitude that a 3-year-old takes. Sorry to be quite so blunt and rude, but it's just being mindful that there is an avoidance going on, particularly with Earth signs, Earth zodiac signs. They tend to like things to kind of stay the same, and as does the Queen of Pentacles and the Eight of Pentacles. Give them a task, they'll get on with it, but kind of change the task midway through, they get a bit frustrated. They're like, well, hang on a second, I haven't completed it. And that building a sense of anxiety. So it's the happy place is just head down, being able to get on with things. And that's fine, but if it means that you're being inflexible or not being as adjustable or malleable or adaptable as possible, then we might be getting into some hot water there. Therefore, keep an open attitude this week. Yes, it might be joyous to finally get back to those things that you've had to shelve and mothball for a particular period of time, but don't do that at the expense of everything else. Just keep checking in with yourself. Is this procrastination going on? Is this an avoidance technique going on? Are there other things that actually need to get done that need to be prioritized that I don't really want to do, so I'll do this instead? That's going to be a recurring theme that comes up again and again and again. So too will this sense of perfectionism. It may be useful to ask, actually, will 80% do for now? Do I need to just take it up to a particular point, then I can come back to it, or leave it, or just kind of hand it in and say, do you know what? There may be a couple of little tweaks that I'd like to have done. This doesn't mean slacking. It doesn't mean doing a half, I don't want to use that word, but a half tried job. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but it does mean if you have a tendency to, oh no, I've got to really cross all the T's and dot all the I's and go through everything really meticulously, just use your discernment of, actually, is that useful? Does it need to be done to that nth degree? Or is it good enough? Is it passable? Will anybody else notice? Is probably a good measure, because if they're not, then move on to the next thing. This is particularly true if there's a bit of a list of things that you need to be accomplishing and achieving this week. It's fine to want to kind of get something to absolute perfect, because you luxuriate in getting it just right, but not when that means that you're ignoring other things that require your attention. Um, the start of the reading, you've got the Fool card, which is a lovely, lovely energy, particularly at the beginning of the year, because it means being kind of excited, welcoming in uh, everything with open arms, just feeling just really joyous. It's a lovely, lovely energy. So I would really encourage you to be the Fool this week. And that doesn't mean being foolish or idiotic, but rather just going with the flow, seeing what comes up rather than wanting to run to what is familiar and what you're used to. Um, I would really encourage you just to go, do you know what? I'm not gonna overly plan things this week. I'm not gonna kind of allow myself to get totally engrossed and absorbed in my activity so that I start ignoring other things. Because this combination of the Fool and the Wheel of Fortune means that there are exciting times afoot, but there's a danger that you might miss them just because you've got your head down and you go, nope, 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 I don't want anything to do with it. And it's almost a bit of a shame because the universe is trying to bring in this sense of excitement and these new starts and these new beginnings and lots of opportunities. But just because it's like, no, I don't want to let go, it's not being able to come in as much as it needs to. Hence why I said for you, Virgo, it's about doing what you do really well. I know last week you had the Hermit card, which is the sign of Virgo. And I remember last week saying, do what you do best. And this is real evidence of it. So yes, be meticulous. Yes, upskill. Yes, get on with things. That's great. But not at the expense of either what requires your attention elsewhere or for these new opportunities to come in. So I hope that helps. Glorious reading though, generally. Be sure to check out your rising sign, your moon sign for a full in-depth reading. But until next week, I shall see you then. Bye for now.